by the time you are waiting for the distilled water or the coolant to drain off, the inspection for the hoses is very important. Do not need to add any distilled water along with this. Container for brake bleeding and a hose. Welcome to the second day of the service. Today we are going to replace the front brake fluid, the clutch fluid, the left fairing, the left cowling is gonna come out so that we can access the clutch casing and get it off to clean the front sprocket. Such a fantastic fairing design such that minimal amounts of bolts are visible, but anyway it is very tough to clamp out this thing from the bike. So two push pins and one fastener has been taken out from the inner chill panel. Now the last push pin that gonna come off is this one on the left hand corner of the tank.
One eternity later. Look at that. This is all the filth that I need to clean, and apart from that, this is the amount of filth that has gathered at the front sprocket. It's a lucky day for this thing today. This thing is all clean now. This casing is fair enough clean, and also washed this entire thing with pressure water. dot for oil, an empty syringe and a bleeding bottle along with the pipe. These are the things we'll need. This is the diaphragm, so this thing gradually comes out as the fluid levels decrease, so that there is no vacuum generated within the reservoir. Moving ahead to the further process, we will fill up the reservoir with the new fluid. Make sure you don't lose this, keep it at a safe place. I need to pump the clutch a couple of times and then keep it pressed. After pressing it, I will unscrew this bolt, this bleeding nipple by around 1/4 ton. Upon doing that, the old fluid in the hose will just drain out in the bottle till the pressure is released. And then once it drains out, a little portion of it drains out, I need to close it back and again repeat the process. I need to repeat this process until the new fluid starts coming out from the pipe. That is called clutch bleeding. And in the entire process, I need to make sure that the fluid levels in the reservoir do not go below the minimum level. Otherwise, the air will pump in and then it would be really difficult to get the air bubbles out of the entire line. The bleeding has been done and new oil has been poured into the reservoir. Time to put everything back. With the brake reservoir being filled, there you go, nice and clear. We will be starting the bleeding. Now the best part about Suzuki's sport motorcycles is that they only have got a single hose that runs down from the reservoir to both the brake. Hose basically comes down to the caliper on the right hand side of the bike. Here you can see. And from the same caliper, it runs down over the wheel on the other end. Best way to do this thing is that you need to bleed the brakes that is farthest from the brake reservoir. Right, so we'll start bleeding this brake first. So the entire line till the first calipers and to the second will be cleared. Once we start to see the new brake fluid coming off from the bleeding nipple, Then we'll close this side, and then we'll also bleed on this side, but it will take only few squeezes. Apart from this, like along with this positive point of Suzuki, there's one shady point also. I'm not sure why they have designed it this way, but considering the calipers on the front brakes, the bleeding nipple has been provided facing inside the wheel. Generally, this bleeding nipple is supposed to be facing outside or towards the back, so it is easy to bleed the brakes, but in this case it's going towards the wheel. So we'll have to figure out a way where you can easily open and close the bleeding nipple for the bleeding process. And for that, I have tried to make this little vacuum system, if I can say in professional words. This is just a sprayer from a regular spray bottle, and with that I have connected the bleeding hose. So what I can do is I can do a vacuum bleeding. I will be connecting this hose to the bleeding nipple and open it just for once, and then I will try spraying the brake fluid, like sucking it out from the reservoir, so that I don't need to pump the brake all the time for creating the pressure and getting the fluid out. So that pumping thing will be replaced by vacuum of this sprayer. Before doing any work related to the radiator, please make sure that the engine is touch warm or it's cool. It shouldn't be hot or shouldn't have been recently switched off while idling. Now moving ahead to the last part of the day, that is flushing the entire radiator coolant and replacing it with a new one. We'll proceed with removing this pipe so that the entire coolant can be drained down in a vessel. One more precaution that you need to take is that the radiator coolant is a very hazardous fluid. Just make sure that it shouldn't be accessible to any pets or even kids who are not aware about it. So it can be lethal, and even while discarding, just do not throw it away. Kindly make sure that you discard it in a proper way. Next process is pouring distilled water into the radiator, and then we'll be turning on the bike. It will mix up with all the leftover old radiator coolant that is inside the system. Put the hose back to its place, tighten it fair enough. Press the hoses softly to make sure that all the air bubbles are escaped from the mouth of radiator, and then gradually you can continue adding up the water or the coolant. The bike is idling right now. As you can see, the engine temperature is slowly rising. Just make sure that you have your eyes on the temperature gauge. Just in the worst case, it shouldn't be showing any weird readings, you don't want to mess up the engine. The fan has started. I can feel the warm air, even the fins are moving. Now I'm gonna switch it off. I'm gonna get bored now till the engine cools down.
1 hour later.
Finally, after around 45 minutes or something, the engine is cold enough to touch. Like I can bear it, and even the radiator cap is on a normal temperature now. So now I can just open it and start draining the distilled water. By the time you are waiting for the distilled water or the coolant to drain off, the inspection for the hoses is very important. Just visually inspect the hoses, and also you can just gently press them. There shall be no cracks on the surface. Mine are just 2 years old, so of course they are gonna be fine, but this shall be the part of the maintenance procedure. There are 2 hoses on the bike, one on each side. You can just acutely press it at one point and then see if there are any cracks visible or not. On the second flush with the distilled water, I can see that the water coming out is quite clear. It doesn't have any contamination of the old fluid. So now I guess it's the right time to refill the entire system with the new engine coolant. Quickly fix the overflow pipe from the radiator back to the reservoir.